Good day, everyone. I'm Maxine Hart C. Alejo, and today with me is Juliana Dominic Banaag. We decided to present together because our papers actually connect in a really interesting way. Mine focuses on grace and hers on death awareness, but both explore how people find depth, meaning, or transformation through moments of limitation, the things we can control and often try to avoid.
Right. At first, it might sound like our topics are completely different. One talks about spirituality and grace, and the other talks about mortality. But as we talked about our papers, we realized they share the same heartbeat. Both ask how uncomfortable or even painful experiences can become turning points for growth.
So, in my study, I explored how grace often appears not in peaceful or predictable situations, but in the messy, inconvenient, and desperate ones. We usually think of grace as something gentle, like politeness, charm, or luck. But I argue that it's actually more powerful than that. It's an unearned, transformative gift that shows up when we least expect it, like in moments of failure, chaos, or even loss. I looked at this idea through the lens of Flannery O'Connor, a mid 20th century Catholic writer known for her Southern Gothic fiction. In her stories, grace isn't this calm or pretty experience. It's often shocking, and her characters usually have to face some kind of collapse before they recognize anything sacred. A good example is from A Good Man is Hard to Find. There's this scene where the grandmother is confronted by a killer, and in that terrifying moment, she suddenly sees things clearly for the first time. She reaches out to him with compassion. Yes, it is unsettling, but for O'Connor, that's actually exactly the point. Grace breaks through when pride, comfort, or control fall apart. And to connect this with more recent perspectives, researchers like Fincham and May and Skalekans et al. Describe grace as an unearned gift that often arises in weakness or mistakes. Additionally, even scholars like English talks about how errors can open the door to new understanding, a concept called rational fallibilism. Across literature, philosophy, and even psychology, there's a shared pattern. Grace tends to appear where things fall apart. And that's where Juliana's topic connects beautifully with mine. Because she also talks about how facing something difficult, like in her case, death, can give life a deeper meaning.
Thanks, Maxine. Yes, my essay focuses on death awareness and how recognizing our mortality actually helps us live more meaningfully. When people think about death, the usual reaction is fear. We want to avoid that thought altogether. But I argue that awareness of death isn't about fear, it's about recognition, realizing that life is finite and that time is precious. That kind of awareness changes how we see everything, our choices, our priorities, and even how we treat people. So, in my paper, I define death awareness as that personal understanding that my life, not just life in general, has limits. And I define meaning in life as having purpose, authenticity, and responsibility. The main idea is that awareness of death doesn't take away joy. It actually makes joy more real. Because once we know life doesn't last forever, every moment starts to matter more. Without that awareness, we risk drifting through life without direction. But when we face it honestly, it gives us clarity. It reminds us to love deeply, forgive quickly, and live intentionally. That's why I found Maxine's idea of grace so connected to mine. Both our topics talk about awakening through difficulty. In her paper, it's through chaos and loss, and in mine, it's through mortality. Both show that awareness, whether of failure or death, can strip away illusions and help us see what really matters.
So, in a way, both of our papers explore what happens when people reach their limits, whether it's a moment of crisis or a realization of mortality. Both situations strip away what's superficial and reveal what truly is essential.
Exactly. Grace and death awareness both teach us humility, that we're not in total control, and that's not necessarily bad. It's often in those moments of surrender or awareness that we find growth, forgiveness, and meaning.
They also share a moral and emotional dimension. Grace reminds us that transformation doesn't have to be earned, it can just happen freely and unexpectedly. Death awareness reminds us that our time to receive or give that grace is actually limited, which makes it precious.
That's such an important overlap. Both concepts challenge our pride. They ask us to slow down, to look inward, and to see beauty in things that seem tragic or uncomfortable, whether it's the grandmother's moment of recognition in O'Connor's story, or the human realization that life ends. Both show that truth and transformation often come through difficulty.
So, if we were to sum it up, our shared message is that human limitation isn't something to fear, it's something to learn from. Grace and meaning don't always come when life is easy. Sometimes they arrive exactly when everything feels uncertain.
And that's what makes both ideas deeply human. They remind us that imperfection, mortality, and even loss aren't the opposite of beauty. They're what make it possible.
So, thank you so much for listening, and we hope our presentation helps you see that even the hardest moments in life can hold unexpected gifts, moments of grace, meaning, and transformation.